right, so this is really weird. This is pretty fresh here, and they have some sort of explanation for this, but it says that the Army apologizes for sending soldiers last-minute recruiting orders. Once you hear this, you're going to go, okay, you're going to be scratching your head. Again, it says, throughout the week, non-commissioned officers across the Army have received notices through their branch managers and other officials that the service needs more recruiting NCOs and it needs them fast. Now, you listen to their reason for this. It says, according to the requisition emails posted to social media channels like Army Reddit, the Army is seeking volunteers to attend recruiting school as soon as November 6th in 4 days, and has waived a host of standing qualifications in order to boost attendance. But other users reported receiving notifications for involuntary orders directing them to attend the course at Fort Knox, Kentucky. So they're literally grabbing, according to that they would be essentially involuntarily made to go do recruiting school so they could then be recruiting. It says, after public outcry about the move and instruction from General Randy George, the service's chief of staff, the Army's top personal officer, Lieutenant General Doug Stitt, spoke with reporters Wednesday and apologized, said, to the soldiers and the families that received this last-minute notification, and told reporters that mistake is mine. So he's taking the blame, apparently. It says Colonel Dave Butler, a spokesman for George, so this guy, and then there's his spokesman, said that when the Army Chief of Staff caught wind of how this was communicated to members of the force, he immediately directed the Army to reassess this effort. Now, this is after it went public, after people were sharing it all over the place going, whoa, 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 why is this happening so fast? Why are all these people... This verifies, just want to let you know, no matter what they say, this verifies what we have been told in the last 3 weeks about people being told to either deploy or talking about this recruiting thing. Now, we know they've fallen back in their recruiting, and we know, and they're saying that it says he directed the staff to get commanders involved in the process and take consideration operational readiness, the soldiers, and their families. According to Stitt, the sudden need emerged when the Army discovered it faced a recruiter shortfall due to errors in its forecasted recruiter strength. The three-star claimed unspecified forecasting failures have been fixed. He declined to link the shortfall to recruiting command's ongoing purge of non-performing recruiters, but rather attributed to a multitude of factors, including an uptick in no-shows. An uptick in no-shows, too. So all these young kids who, again, the same ones who are making TikTok videos saying, heck no, we're not going to fight for this country, whatever else, at the Army Recruiting College. It says the Army hopes to source an additional 800 attendees for the November and December courses at the recruiting school, but Stitt emphasized that officials will consider individual hardships when meting out these assignments, even if it means not filling all 800 seats. If a soldier has a life situation or a family situation or a professional situation that the chain of command or their career manager or human HR command is not identifying, we're going to talk to that soldier. We're going to work through this to ensure that we have the right NCOs at the right time. Now, translation for people that aren't getting why this would be important, they are trying to get mass recruiters in and fast. Now, they have known for months. We covered this months and months ago. They knew they weren't going to hit their numbers. Why all of a sudden the hurry? Well, they're saying that, there was problems with this and problems with that, and they're making every excuse about it. But at the same time, if you look at all of the actions and all of the different stories that we've been talking about, all of the leaks, all of the threats, all of the different things that are coming out, the press releases, they are trying to up their readiness. Congress is calling for us to get our Army up because they believe we are going to be in a war. And then they're saying, it's because poor performance by these recruiters. By the way, I just want to say when I was in high school, these recruiters were absolutely savage already. I don't know if they changed rules on them or if it's the same as it was back then, but these recruiters could pick you up at home. They could take you to lunch. They could drive you around. They could literally do almost anything back then to get you to say yes to the Army. Again, it was crazy how the recruiters were in high school. They would come to the smokers corner where people like all the potheads and cigarette smokers would be, and they would literally just try to chat people up almost every single day. Like they were hardcore. And I can't imagine with a shortfall like this and these people telling them that they're going to lose their job if they're not hitting these quotas, how rough they are now. As far as the recruiting, there used to be a whole lot of people that wanted to be in the army. Now you have Gen Z, which I'm sorry, I don't think there's a lot of Gen Z that are totally gung-ho to protect this country when the narrative and the message for the last 5, 6, 7 years on all social media is that America's evil, America's this, America's, all sorts of bad, and we're broken. This does not give me confidence that we're not going into war right now. What do you feel about this? What do you think? Let me know in the comments down below. Today, we're going to go over all of the rest of what happened in the last 24 hours. And again, make sure to also go over to @MFN on YouTube. Again, just type in @MFN to find our other video that we just did on all of the more important Israel stuff. So again, we'll be right back right after this. It's a live show. We'll be right back. Nothing in the show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. All right, so first of all, there's kind of a split in how people feel about recruiters, active or retired military. I don't know if you're active or retired. There said, I really liked my recruiters, and they were really nice. I never said these recruiters were jerks. In fact, they would do everything and anything for you. Heck, they would, I think one of my friends, the guy let him test drive his like Mustang and stuff. Like they took people out to lunch. They did all sorts of nice things. Again, I don't remember them, being rude or anything. In fact, they were overly nice. They were there ready to chat. It kind of felt like they were selling the army, kind of like how you would sell knives. Now, remember, I wanted to join back then. I really did, but I had not in high school, but after that, when I was out of high school, after I turned 18, I had tattoos, and they didn't allow anything beyond the sleeve, and I couldn't join. I've told people that before, and then the next time they laxed that, and I believe I had a different tattoo, and they had laxed the lower arm for Navy or something. But I'm glad I didn't join now because my life wouldn't have been the same and I wouldn't have had my kids. But at the same point, like for all of you military out there that joined because of a recruiter, just think about it right now. Why do you think that they are trying to get these recruiting spots filled and like ASAP? I think it's because they are going to need to recruit way more, especially if you're looking at something like a world war. As far as what's going on, they're basically waiving almost every kind of thing that would hold you back from doing it. They're waiving everything right now. Again, so that's what we just covered. Army apologizes for sending soldiers last-minute recruiting orders. And they didn't really say that they didn't do everything that they said that they did. They just said, oh, well, yeah, it's just miscommunication of how, they didn't say it wasn't urgent. They also said basically it was because they weren't getting their quotas, right? I don't know. Now, we've also talked about how they've upped the bonuses in almost every branch has like the highest bonus ever. But in today's inflation and in today's market, even a $50,000 bonus or whatever it is, it's like people are looking at it and going, that's still not going to get people to sign up. And then some split on it said that these Gen Zs are no hopers. one thing I thought of is if they are if there's no border and if you are really looking at this place like we should just have open borders and open everything, then what are you actually going to protect, right? What are you going to protect? An idea of a piece of land that everybody lives on? When it's much more closed off, I'm sure people were like, we've got to keep what we have here, right? So I don't know. There's a lot of different thoughts on what's happening right now, but it's getting crazy. Now, remember, if you're new here, you can always go over to marfooglenews.com and you can find today's thumbnail, and you can go and get every single source, a full bibliography of every single article, tweet, video, picture, document that we're going to show you here today. Just go over to today's thumbnail. Last minute recruiting, drafted insider breaks rank, reveals truth, and $500 million. Click on that. You will find yourself in a whole list of all of the sources plus a whole lot more. Again, that has, you can read along with the second tablet or device, or you can go back retrospectively and check our work. All right, let's bring my co/internet brother, Dex James. What is going on and how are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Fugel fam. I'm doing just fine.
B. Borrowed, nice to see you. Truth, Iris Danielson. We had Kathy Paina. Aloha. Says that I tested in Italy. They wanted me to be a mechanic in Air Force. That's very, very cool. When I joined the Army in 2013, I was offered $20,000 for enlistment. Dingus Chubb, it is now $50,000, I believe. And well, it depends on what branch. I think one of them was 30, one of them was 40, and one of them was 50. Plus, they were giving like some sort of benefits too. So they were going above and beyond as far as all of the benefits they've ever given. But yeah, and let me ask you this: did you get the $20,000 when you got out? Like you just got a $20,000 check, or is it broken down, or can you break it down? Like, and I know they did college and things like that for people. But how does that even work? Did you just get a check, and you don't get it at the beginning, right? I'm sure you probably get it at the end. And then Indeed has job opening for the Navy for flight attendants. Very weird. Indeed has job opening for the Navy for flight attendants. Very weird. That is weird. 20,000 got an email today, says Madge. When did they start offering money for enlisting? Vicky, they've as long as I remember, they've always had some sort of enlistment, whether it be college money or some sort of thing. But I never realized, like, is that just straight up cash? Or I'm sure there's a system to it. Let's see here. You get your bonus after your training. So what? Do you get, before you actually get shipped out, do you get to like blow it on a car or something? Or do you not even get a chance to spend it until after you're out? Let's see here. Flight attendant is a new PC term for load master ordnance. Dale Jackson, what is a load master ordnance? Dex, could you look up load master? I can't do it on mine. Love to figure that out. Blow it on a Honda. Haha, that's funny. Yeah, well, if you're Congress, you would blow it on a dress or a suit. They wear $12,000 dresses, and probably the men probably wear $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 suits to work. It's what?
They mathematically pre-plan the correct placement of the load on the airplane and provide passenger comfort and safety and securing cargo and making sure the plane is loaded correctly.
So did you guys got that? So the load master ordnance essentially figures out all of the weight displacement and then how much they can carry. That's actually a pretty important job, I'm assuming, especially when you're carrying like weapons and ammo and all sorts of other stuff. They can blow it on a watch or one first class flight. Yeah. Well, nowadays they can blow it on like a meal at IHOP, right? After you go to school, then they pay you. Tracy Carmerdell. Huh. Well, we paid their salary, can't afford new clothes. Exactly. That's the most offensive thing I heard is that woman complaining she couldn't wear, that she said, I spent $12,000 on this dress and I can't wear it to Congress. That's her title is a representative. That's the person representing you. Okay. That's why they're all swimming in money. All right. And, make sure to go over to marfooglenews.com/friends. You can find all of our great mods. We have Trinity here. Leah, always a great channel to check out. Of course, make sure to go check out Bones. Chance has great books over on Amazon. Chance is always rock solid attendance. He is always holding the D Live family down. Go check out his Amazon. You actually have a link. You can go get some of his books. So again, go check him out. CJ Blaze, Jammer, Lisa R. Hall, Rip Curl Readiness has been making a ton of shows lately. RJL Harris, Trinity has an awesome channel. She edits a ton. And Wages World, again, he's been covering all of the solar events, and he's one of the nicest guys I know. So make sure to go help him out and subscribe. All right, Dex, let's go over Russia tells the UN Israel does not have the right for self-defense.
So look, they're nitpicking, or at least trying to say that because of the way things are set up, that and this is the ambassador, the Russian ambassador to UN was telling them this, that Israel does not have a right to self-defense under international law, and they're saying it's because it's an occupying state. Now, what they're really doing, and I think the important part here, is not the argument. Yes, they can mince all the words they want, and they can say what they want, and I'm not doing this to take sides on either side. I'm saying this because we're looking at somebody like Russia, who is clearly taking a side. They are coming up at this from a point of picking a side that is not the same side that the U.S. is supporting. So that tells me that what we're seeing is more alignment in the global realm around who's joining up, who is starting to make the arguments, who is starting to push for, and potentially will take the next steps, like supplying weapons, as we were reporting on over on Marfoogle News, to different sides. We see the U.S. is obviously supporting the side that the U.S. is supporting, but when we start to see Russia and potentially even China start to do things in coordination with their allies, like Iran, then things are going to get much more escalated. So, long story short, he was making the argument that based on the fact of the occupying state, that they really weren't in a position to say that they're defending themselves, because it's not somebody coming across into their state to attack them. So it's mincing of words. Again, I don't think that's the important part. The important part is who's saying it and what side are they now taking.
And what a lot of the media that we see, and I don't know, they just accused TikTok of actually being on the Palestine side, and saying that they're pushing a lot of the free that country side. I don't know if we're seeing a lot of the media we are because of the stuff that's being kind of ported over from TikTok, and that's true. But a lot of the video you see is, and obviously a lot of the protests, there are hundreds of thousands, millions going out in the streets all over the world in support of the side that is now getting essentially taken over, right? The Gaza. People are taking a side after they read an op-ed and they're like, oh, I got this side. Then you see the politicians. Today I just saw a clip of Josh Hawley giving the DHS guy the huge, just did one of his grandstanded things again. And by the way, I have liked Josh Hawley when he pointed out like the Facebook stuff, and he has this style, right? He has his assistants put up these huge cards as he's targeted somebody. He's going to go in and common sense. He has this huge play card, and when he went after Facebook, he said, look at this. We have a whistleblower saying that you guys did this and you guys did that. And he always, tears people apart and already has something planned. So he looks really good. I see somebody when they're doing that, they're positioning themselves for trying to run for president in 5-10 years. I guarantee you Josh Hawley is going to run at some point. And he is, when he speaks the truth about certain things, it's like, oh, yeah. But what I see about both sides, and I lean to the right, but I see the right and the left do the same exact thing, where they do these grandstands and they already have something, in plan. This thing that they were talking about with DHS, I see a different angle in this. They were talking about how this woman who works for DHS has put and supported the Palestine side, and put, free this, free that, and then put a picture of a guy jumping out of a plane with the bang bang, and said this person is a foreigner with a visa and she's working at DHS, issued this and that. And apparently he had messaged the DHS guy beforehand, so he knew about it. And he just basically yells at the guy, says, how can you explain this? Why is she still working there? Whatever else. Shouldn't we be removing her visa and sending her back? Whatever else. I agree that somebody in that position shouldn't be in the position that this woman was in, where she gets to pick if somebody gets to come over or she can help get somebody, either in or out of the country. She could be biased and say, because you're on the side I don't support, to have that job. But one thing I want to say is that people that are fighting for free speech right now have to realize that there's a lot of hypocrisy in the sides we take. I think I agree very closely with something like, I think it's Brian from High Impact that says this, but essentially, free speech is not speech that you like. And it's not speech that if we only allowed people to freely speak the stuff that we like, then that's not free speech at all. Like, I'm a firm believer that you should be able to say anything, absolutely anything, even if it's the really bad stuff that all of us disagree with. There's got to be the ability, because the thing is the government and the rulers of this planet have on multiple occasions been on the wrong side of things. They've been on the wrong side of the argument. And I'm not even talking about this current thing, but just in general, say in Germany, heck, what they were saying was correct by the government standards, or what they were doing. They were being told, they were being ordered to do these things. That still doesn't make it right. That's why there was the Nuremberg trials and things like this. So, people compare it today, like all these people that are towing the line, some of the things that we have done, the U.S., it's like, in 30 years, is there going to be a Nuremberg trial for some of the things that we've done? There might. And again, the whole war on free speech and calling everything hate or this, who gets to decide? But my point in all of this is they are taking this side and they're turning it into a big circus, so then they can use it for their positions later on in life, or for their presidential run or something. I honestly think that everybody needs to really kind of see through the BS and see when they're trying to get us all riled up. Everything that's being said right now is getting people divided and getting people fighting with each other. And if you look, the government's supporting this side, and then you see what people see is the people are supporting the other. And it may be separate in your small, in the people you talk to every day. But when you look globally, it's like you can see a direct matchup where people are going to be fighting. They keep showing these videos of people tearing down the posters of the people that were taken here. It's like, why are there so many videos of that? Who is putting these up in multiple countries in every city, right? There's both groups are super, super strong, and there's people that look like almost actors pulling them down and stuff. It's like they're purposely trying to push us to fight with each other, because this isn't a left-right thing. This is a separate thing. So you've got the people on the right fighting and totally torn apart, and you've got the people on the left completely fighting and torn. Divide and conquer. Meanwhile, there's laws being passed. There are threats of cyber attacks and all of these other events going on, and people are completely involved in this thing, just as they were completely involved with Russia and UKR, and now they've just acted like that's not happening anymore. People completely forgot the conflict. They had their Facebook profile picture as Zelensky. Now they've changed it. Now it's probably Netanyahu. I mean, like, something way bigger is happening, and we've all seen it for a while. Yeah, I'm talking to you guys because most of you all see this stuff. If you really see, and even if it, because the thing is you have to go even against the people that are saying the same things that are on your side. There's a lot of BS being said right now. I think that it's hard to even see where this is going to go right now, when you have both sides now split and divided as well. Dex, do you want to go over the diplomatic efforts to pause fighting gain steam as Israeli ground troops push towards the city?
Yeah, so this is we covered a little bit of this on the news channel earlier too, folks. But what they're trying to do is create these pause points. Now, this is not necessarily a cease fire. What they're trying to do is to get an opportunistic time to stop bombardments, to stop any forward movement, so they could bring in humanitarian aid, so they can bring out potential hostages, um, etc. And that they want those windows of opportunity. Now, the way this is happening is our current president, JB, is asking for it, and he's asking for it from Netanyahu. And in doing so, we're sending over Blinken, who's in a hurry to get there for a meeting, I guess today, well, Friday. It's almost that there. Um, and have that meeting and push for this request. Again, it's not a cease at all by any means. If anything, it's just a pause. We'll have to see if if they're willing to do it too. I mean, the other side is they're like, look, we're in this, we're moving forward, and nothing's going to stop us. I think that was part of the quote Netanyahu said today. So it's kind of contrary to that, but we'll see what comes from it.
And I want to point out the good comments. I totally understand what you're saying there. I want to point out that where I see that the Josh Hawley stuff coming is the government stepping in. And if you do have the unpopular side on any opinion on any side, say so you read the wrong op-ed and you're on the wrong side of what the government says or what the majority says, right? They're pushing super hard to control completely the internet. So what you say, it could not only lose your job, lose you your position. It could not only get you kicked out if you're from here, or I mean, not from here, if you have a visa, get you kicked out. That's almost more acceptable. But the people that are citizens here that say the wrong thing get locked up. This is already happening in other countries. So if you say something that's an unpopular opinion, that could then get you put in jail. This is where it is headed. And everybody needs to fight against that, even if they don't agree with some of the cases where that's the thing. You can't support this one and then not support that one. You got to support it across the board, no matter what. Even if some of these cases are ones that you don't support, because if you say something, if you have an opinion on a two-sided argument, and you happen to be lining up with the one that everybody hates, that shouldn't get you arrested. Okay, it's an opinion. It's your view on things. Now it can get you fired. Nobody has to hire you if that woman's in a position where she's picking who comes in and who doesn't. Yeah, she should not be working there. But to talk about potentially people getting arrested for having one side or the other. Well, what if tomorrow the side is, U.S. government goes door to door and takes things from people, and you say that shouldn't happen, and then all of a sudden you get arrested? Like, later down the road, it always lines up with something that you disagree with or you agree with. And that's the scary part. And that's what's happening right now. And a lot of folks don't see it. I know everybody here does, and I'm preaching to the choir. And then calls for armies to be drafted in millions strong last time March on Remembrance Day. So we're going to go over this kind of strange thing here that we found. But before we do, just want to remind you again, make sure to go check out Energy. This is one of the best solar generators on the market. Again, it is the one that we recommend because, again, this is a modular and expandable system. So you can start out with a portable unit with one battery. And you can expand it up to 96 batteries. You can change it to a UPS. You can change it to a supercharged system. They work like Legos, and they expand. So they are continually making new mods for this that change the overall performance for it. Any weakness that it has compared to any competitor, they have a mod that will make it stronger. That's why this one is the coolest one out there. It is also the same unit. In fact, the Energy Flex 1500 or the Flex Tactical version, this is what is going to be used by the U.S. Army. This is shipping out as far as the SBIR Phase 2 contract for the U.S. Army, and it was developed by the Air Force Research Laboratory. Now, this is the tactical version. It's got, again, a steel frame, 1,500-pound latches. You can get this one, but I think most people would be good with just the standard Flex 1500. This, again, is built like a tank by itself without the crazy latch system, without the crazy heaters built into every battery. I think most people would actually be good with this. If you want the most tactical, you can go that way. But otherwise, this is silent. No one is going to know that you have power. And, of course, no one's going to hear it from 3 blocks away, and you won't have to deal with storing gasoline. You have foldable panels that you can put out, and then, of course, you can store up power on good days and then use it on the bad days. Again, very, very, very cool system. You can even expand how many panels you can put in it with the supercharger, and you can turn it into a UPS system with an uninterrupted power supply mod. So this thing has it all. Go over to marfugglenews.com/energy. I wouldn't rep it unless I thought it was one of the best and that I haven't used it myself. I've used this thing for everything. I've used it for construction and where I don't have an extension cord. I've used it for camping. I've used it for all sorts of stuff that I didn't expect to use this for. So I've used it almost on a daily basis for weird things that I never thought would be possible without having a generator like this. You can't really take a gas-powered generator everywhere you want unless you can't really run it everywhere without some downfalls. I would say everybody should have a gas-powered and a solar if you are a true 100% crazy prepper. But if you didn't, I would highly recommend getting a solar generator. It's going to be an awesome thing, especially when gas stations are an absolute mess during an SHTF situation. marfugglenews.com/energy, INERGY, and make sure to use the code Marfoogle. It helps us, it gets you a giant discount, and of course, you're supporting your favorite channel. All right. And let's go to this one first. Calls for armies to be drafted in million-strong Palestine march on Remembrance Day. It says the MP has called for the military to be drafted in to keep the peace in London after it emerged that protesters are organizing a, quote, million-strong march on Remembrance Day. It says that Palestine, and Dex, you looked up what Remembrance Day is, right? And it actually wasn't what we thought it was. Did you?
Yeah,
it was
it's a
German.
it's a European day for the memorial of the first world conflict. I think France and some of the other countries and UK and others they use that day, the Remembrance Day, is what they refer to it. So it just happens to, I don't know if they're trying to hijack that day or if it's just that's the day they're picking, which is the 11th.
Oh, good.
It falls on it.
Good use of words. The Palestine Solidarity Campaign has announced its plans to continue protests in response to Israel's retaliation. It says coaches are now being organized from northern towns like Dewsbury, Batley, and Leicester with a demand for activists to, quote, help make this biggest march in history. The planned day of protest, November 11, will clash directly with this year's Remembrance Day. So on 11/11. I don't know, other than seeing that on a clock constantly, what does 11/11 have any significance? Is there a special kind of thing with 11/11 that anybody knows about as far as the symbolics of that or the symbolism of 11/11? But when we think of 11, we think of 9/11. It says, despite the head of Metzger, Mark Rowley, telling the London Assembly the protesters, quote, will not be allowed near the official events or to disrupt them. There are serious concerns about how such a large protest can take place while maintaining peace and order. Now, there's been a ton of these that are going on, and of course, they're not going with the same narrative that most of the Western governments are going with. So, obviously, there is probably room for something crazy. Dex, what do you think of 1 million people gathering like this if this happens?
Well, I think, what we need to do is pay attention to, is this going to become an international day and something that goes beyond just London? Obviously, it's a big problem for them. 11/11 is an important day here in America. It's not that we don't call it Remembrance Day. We call it Veterans Day. We honor our veterans on that day. So, but it will be interesting to see how if this can become as big as they say it is, and then if it will become something that's not just localized in London and become something global or going across other countries, like even here in America. So, I would pay attention to that.
I was just looking. I didn't know if that was a real street light or if somebody made a sign with. What is that? Is that guy on the street light? I just realized that might be a human being up there. Yeah, Just and people are very torn on all of this. But if this goes down, I wonder if there's room for something crazy to happen. And then, Dex, do you want to go over the Gaza tunnels?
Yeah, absolutely. And while I do that, Adam, we do have a news article that's in Screener if you want to pull that up and get it ready. So this article about flooding the tunnel system, as we talked about it a little bit on the other channel as well. It's very vast. It's 300 plus miles. It is, some say 60 to 80 feet deep. Others say it can go even much deeper than that. And it presents a huge problem. This is a hypothesis, not even a hypothesis. This is a suggestion that was written by somebody who has experience over there, and it's actually not even something that's totally new. Flooding the tunnels is actually something that's been done before, not necessarily the ones in the strip, but the ones in the southern strip around Egypt were actually done. About 15 tunnels were flooded in the past intentionally to try to, make them unusable. So I'm giving you the very short abbreviated version. If you want to read the full story, go to our website. You can. Basically, the person is hypothesizing it's a very short distance from where the tunnels begin, where you can get into any of the lines, and it's short distance from the Mediterranean. And pumping large amounts of water is not rocket science. It's something we do at nuclear plants. It's something we do at power plants. It's something we do at our water treatment facilities. It could take, just with one pipe, you could fill the entire tunnel system in 7 months. But if you pumped, 10 or 100 times more than that, which we do on a constant basis, and it's not rocket science, you could probably fill them up really quickly. And you don't even have to fill the tunnels. You just need to get a few feet in them before they become unusable. You could imagine anybody in them is going to be trying to get out. So interesting idea. We've heard about all these different ideas about what they're going to do with the tunnels. Some said they were going to put, sponge bombs in there that would, fill up with foam and prevent them to access certain areas. They've even made suggestions of putting chemicals and other things in there that would make people want to leave. And of course, we've talked about robots, which they recently did. They're running robots through to try to clear them out and give them a heads up before they get into it. So
now it sounds like so there's some breaking news. Do we have a credit? Was there a Foogle family member that brought this to our attention?
The mods brought it to my attention, and I'm sure everybody in chat was talking about it earlier too.
So this is breaking to us. The Oconee County Sheriff's Office is investigating a Thursday night incident, according to the Sheriff's Office, at 8:06 p.m. So, and I believe the location would be local time about an hour and a half ago.
Yeah, that's on the East Coast. It's South Carolina, and for you locals around here, it's called Oconee. I know you don't know the pronunciation,
got it.
But yeah, for all of us around here, we know it. Oconee.
Oconee County. A white man with a 2002 Toyota Camry drove through the gates of a plant here, and this is run by Duke Energy. Now, Duke Energy, we actually covered a piece of an op-ed of a person who talked about how Duke Energy has covered up a lot of the events that have happened to the energy sector. And it says that man drove car through the gate fence at Oconee. Oconee? Am I saying that right?
Oconee.
Oconee nuclear station. So here's the thing, with stuff like this, one of these days we're going to have a real event, a big one. Everybody's, everything's a nothing burger. One of these days it's not going to be. If you talk to law enforcement or to any active or retired military, then there's a lot of stuff that goes on that they do not talk about publicly. There's a lot of events. I just mentioned it yesterday, as far as there's a lot of attacks on energy and our grid that are not reported, or at least publicly. Later down the line, they'll do a report and it will come out the number of attacks, from people driving a car through something to hitting it with a pot shot to somebody putting a homemade explosive to whatever it may be, or sniping at it. And 2 out of 700 attacks have gone to the Department of Energy have ever been put out publicly. Now, the numbers came out in the NERC report, but we still didn't have the breakdown of how many attacks, what ended up happening, what kinds. until 7 years later or something like that. So this is something to pay attention to, especially if it has anything to do with infrastructure, power, our grid. Well, thank you, Foogle fam. Thank you, mods. Appreciate that. Yeah, so we'll follow that and we'll update you guys tomorrow.
Anyway, they don't even know where he is at the moment. He got away.
Yeah, that's not good. All right, and let's see here. TikTok denies pushing pro-Palestine content. It says short form video app TikTok said on Thursday that hashtag expressing support for Israel in its war against Hamas has received more views than a pro-Palestine hashtag, refuting accusations the platform has pushed content in support of the Strip. It says in a blog post, TikTok said U.S. views of the hashtag Stand With Is garnered 46 million views October 7th and October 31st, compared with 29 million views of the hashtag Stand With Palestine over the same period. Over the last few days, there has been unsound analysis of TikTok hashtag data around the conflict, causing some commentators to falsely insinuate that it is pushing Palestine content over pro-Israel. Now, just because one post that got a lot more than the other, that maybe it's because it's the hashtags. They're saying that this hashtag got more views than that hashtag, whatever else. One thing you'll see is that app it's everywhere, and that app is run all by algorithms, and the algorithms are supposed to feed content to people how they want to be fed. We're not talking about a human or even their algorithms are something insane. We've talked about ByteDance and their invention, this algorithm that was so addictive that it's almost something magical, and not in a good way, like in a bad way. The deep dive on TikTok and the actual algorithm that runs it is very scary. If you've ever been on the thing, you know. There's a reason. It's not just because it has interesting videos. It's because of how the videos are targeting that viewer. Heck, you talk about something like a lawn dispute about your neighbor, you will see videos about that. If you talk about, some experience you had with somebody almost hitting you at a crosswalk, it will literally show you videos. All of a sudden, you'll be watching it. And the algorithms are getting to the point where people are thinking that it's black magic. So with this, I just wonder what is really happening. And of course, I've thought that there's been propaganda on there for a long time. Heck, if you go on there, there's constantly, all the live streams are these random live streams of people arguing against older anything. It's very liberal. Like all the arguments are very liberal on that platform. And they'll have like a live streamer that's saying, giving these messages, and I'm thinking who, like a pro-abortion live stream, right? They'll have something like that, and they'll have thousands and thousands of viewers. Somehow the TikTok is filtering in millions of people watching these things. And again, doesn't matter what side you're on, you only see that. You won't see the anti. You won't see the anti of this thing. You'll see anti-Second Amendment stuff on there. And it'll be a live stream saying, we should take them away. Convince me otherwise. And there'll be all these live streams, and they'll be on the top page. They'll have the most clicks and most views. And it's like, you have to realize another country is running this and pushing it into our country and has a huge sway over it. And it is causing strafe and all sorts of problems here. It is completely divided the nation, and they're pushing all of the things that we're divided on. I think that it's very, very obvious that almost every subject right now is you're on this side or this side. And it's very clear to me, at least, that TikTok and other platforms are doing it on purpose. It's purposeful. What do you guys think? Let me hear it in the chat, or let me hear it in the comments down below. Hey, did you hear about the B-52 bombers flying in the Midwest? I believe we've covered some of it. Many YouTube shorts are of TikTok. Yes, Dale Val. I mean, it's crazy how much TikTok is everywhere. You go to most all of the shorts, and they've just literally ported the TikToks over. In fact, in the beginning, that's all there was. People didn't have there were shorts is picked up, but it was different. It's owned by China. TikTok is an STD, says Gunslinger. Any app that has in its TOS that it monitors your keystrokes, it's probably not that great. Dex, do you want to go over the Japan looks south to bolster its security?
Yeah, so Japan, the Prime Minister Fumio Kishida is in Manila on Friday for a summit with the Philippines President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. And this is really important because what we're starting to see is the Japan specifically build relations with the rest of the Pacific countries, and especially in this case with partnering with somebody in the Southeast Asia area. In the past, they've always relied on the relationship that America and the US had. It was almost, if you think of it like a spoke, America was the center, and we maintained the relationship with Japan, we maintained the relationship with South Korea, we maintained the relationship with the Philippines, but they didn't really do anything together. And what they're really saying here is that, now it is important for them to do this, and they're actually seeing that it's important for these countries to start to come together amongst themselves while they can remain allies with us. And it's because there's one problem that everyone in the region actually cares about, and that's China's military. So Tokyo is well aware that it can no longer rely on the technology superiority to protect itself from China, nor can Washington. What it can do is fall back on those long-standing ties and give a boost to partners in the Southeast Asia, says Euro Asia Group Japan Director David Bowling. So interesting meeting. We've talked a lot about the Philippines lately. We watch what's going on in the South China Sea, all the escalations that are happening there. Seeing Japan expand their relations with them will be a strengthening position for them against China, and China will definitely not like it by any means. So we'll watch. We'll see what comes of it. I mean, I don't think it changes anything this moment, but it's sort of one of the many signs that we see of the shift and change of Japan's posturing and positioning, as well as the alliance that's starting to come together against China.
Now, folks are talking about the B-52 bombers and being seen over New York. Somebody said that they saw B-52 bombers over, or I'm sorry, B-2 stealth bombers over Oregon. In the last 2 days, I have heard about them over Colorado. This one of these posts, I was trying to find the most recent posts. Says B. Oh, by the way, um, that's the lizard plane lady. They made a costume of her. That was hilarious. And by the way, that's her in her normal thing. What was funny is this video talking about it. They said that she didn't blink once. I was going to show you that later, but um, beautiful day at Bear Mountain with the seventh graders. Even got a glimpse of the B-2 stealth bombers. Where is Bear Mountain, people? Chat, do you want to participate here? Where would that be? So lots of reports of the B-2 stealth bombers just in the last couple days. This is 12 hours. Oh, this is Montgomery, New York. Fort Montgomery, New York. So is that what you guys were talking about with New York? I'd love to hear from you. Where, and if you did see a B-2 bomber, where did you see it? Very, very freaky. It's such an ominous vehicle. If you see that, it's just nuts. And we've talked about a couple weeks ago, we talked about the B-21 Raider. That's the new one. That thing's even crazier. And it looks like, is that white or silver? I would imagine that would be even more invisible in the sky, matching with the blue sky, right? But that doesn't really exist anymore anyways. Let's see here. Drain it. B-2 bomber. Let's see here. Yeah, the B-21 by the end of this year. That was in October. We covered that. Yeah. I was trying to see if there was any more evidence of this flying up above. Military academies. This is 1 hour old. B-2 Spirit stealth bomber over the cadets assembled on the field. That's okay. That's West Point, so that makes sense. Have you ever seen one of these in person? Somebody want to tell me why a stealth bomber just flew over New Paltz, New York? So obviously there's a recent sightings. Why? And here's the thing. I mentioned it yesterday and I mentioned it on Monday. There have been all sorts of sightings of these things all over the place. So do you think it's just readiness and they're flying these things all around? With New York, that could be explained. They could be going from base to base. They could be doing a test run or a drill. But there's a lot of sightings of the B-2. That's creepy. Dex, have you ever seen a B-2 in person? They're gigantic.
No, I have not.
If you ever get to see them in person, we're by Boeing, so I've seen them several times, but that's usually because they're doing some sort of thing for the museum. There's the flight museum and Boeing here, so I've seen them a couple times. And the first time I saw one land at the Boeing field, by Boeing, there's a little park it's like the South Park neighborhood. And there's actually a park you can sit at and watch all the planes come in, or jets. In the case, I've seen jets come in, and it's absolutely crazy because you can get really, really close to the end of one of the runways. For some reason, there was some sort of event going on at one of the other airports that they land, or the bases. So they ended up coming into like Boeing. And I saw a B-2 bomber, and I was absolutely blown away by how big it is. I was just absolutely flabbergasted in the way it looks when it's flying and how quiet it is when it's coming in. I was absolutely flabbergasted by how cool it was. I mean, God, I would not want to be on the opposite end of that thing. Annabelle, it's all coming soon. Just wait. That's Scout. Canadian Prepper is awesome, says Rose Powers. Nate, I actually believe Nate. A lot of people give him crap because he's the big guy. He's the biggest channel. I think the bigger you get, the more people talk trash about you. I think that everybody calls anybody that talks about this stuff doomsayers and all of this, and I think it's absolutely stupid. I think we should all get over that and stop being so afraid. Let's see. Planet Brad, nice to see you. Burger Time, what's the name of the song at the end of last night's show? All of the songs on this channel are just loops that I make on my stupid thing here. So I don't have a name for it. You just have to go to the Marfoogle jams and find out. Let's see here. Whatever Forever. Nate is great. I've gotten behind in some of his videos because there is so much going on and watch many other channels to get different info. No, I agree with you. Lord Andrew. Yes. You know who I really liked, and I told you guys about this the other week, is when he had the Atlas survival bunker thing. I thought it was really fascinating to find out how the bunker situation is. And I like how he goes on because Atlas isn't doing his own videos right now, or at least not much. So Atlas going on to Nate's channel and talking about the bunkers, I think that was incredibly fascinating. And I talked about how Atlas talked about the gentleman who told him about the Denver airport, and that he said it as matter of factly that Denver airport is going to be a city when everything hits the fan. Now, we all had this speculation and stuff, and it's still technically a theory that underneath is a whole bunker city. I believe it is a city underneath Denver. For 20 years to have dirt come out of that thing, I'm sorry. I don't think it's because of their luggage system or whatever. And then they've embraced it. Their PR team was like, well, nobody's going to shut up about it, so we should embrace it and make it a joke. And they did a very good job with their PR team to make people basically think, oh, it's just a bunch of crazy tinfoil hatters. They put alien posters all around it. The murals that were there, the plaques of the actual people that helped build the thing. It was all very clear before all of that PR kind of stunt they did. Dex, go ahead.
Have you seen the shape of the runways?
Isn't it the sign for the Masons or something?
No, it's worse. It's the one from Germany.
Oh, that's right. The black horse, the black horse in the front. If you don't know about this, we've done a whole series of shows about this, and it's super fascinating. We did videos just on the murals. The murals are absolutely nuts. We've been talking about this for years. There's a lot of people that are just getting into this, and a lot of new people here. If you, I would say start off with something simple like the Jesse Ventura kind of tour of it, and then go deeper and do your own research into it, and you'll see there's all sorts of really grimy, weird things about it. And it's held in a time capsule and all of that because a lot of that's changed. They took out a lot of the stuff that was really, really weird, or they embraced it and made it a fake joke. I still think that there's something wrong. There's all sorts of weird stories, like the guy that made the black horse in front, this huge giant statue of a black horse with red glowing eyes. How creepy is that? There's stories of the guy, I believe he perished while making that thing. Yeah, it's a whole nother, it is shows. We've made shows about it just that.
It's blue.
The eyes are blue?
No, the horse is blue. They call it the blue or the big blue or something.
Yeah, but
it's
isn't
blue.
it,
I remember seeing it blue.
is it dark blue or is it?
It is dark blue, but it's blue.
I feel like it's black. Well, maybe you're right. Maybe in the day. I've never seen it.
Yeah, that's it. They call it Lucifer. That's the name.
Lucifer. Is that not just the creepiest thing ever? All right, and then China agrees to nuclear arms control talks with the U.S. and they're saying that they will discuss nuclear arms control next week. The first such talk since the Obama administration, the Wall Street Journal reported on Wednesday. China's foreign ministry said on Monday, after a visit by Foreign Minister Yang Yi to Washington, that the two countries will hold consultations on arms control and non-proliferation. It says these arms talks would be led on Monday by Mallory Stewart, a senior State Department official, and Sun Jibo, the head of the Arms Control Department at China's Foreign Ministry. So even this person is not going to talk to Xi. Now, JB is going to meet with Xi in the next month or so. It says the U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said in 2021 that the U.S. and Chinese presidents had agreed to, quote, look to begin to carry forward discussion on strategic stability, reference to Washington's concerns about Beijing's nuclear weapons buildup, which they're building like there's no tomorrow. It says, but the White House is quick to say that at a time that discussions would not resemble former arms reduction talks like those that the U.S. had with Russia, because China doesn't have that many. It says, since then, the U.S. officials had expressed frustration that China showed little interest in discussing steps to reduce nuclear weapons risks. China has more than 500 operational nuclear warheads in its arsenal and will probably have over 1,000 warheads by 2030. I think that number is total BS because they said that they would have 300 by 2024. They now have 500. I think that they're so underestimating, and I believe that they're making stuff under the cover, in secret that they're not going to know about until later. It says the Pentagon said in October, but Beijing has long argued that the U.S. already has a much larger arsenal. The arms talks would occur likely before a meeting between U.S. President JB and Chinese President Xi Jinping in San Francisco in November. Isn't it funny that they're also meeting in California after Gavin Newsom just went and personally met with Xi Jinping in a surprise visit? I think California is they're setting the tone for something in California. Dex, did you think about that? After, we've talked about California, the leaks of the gun owners there, the port busters that look just like San Francisco. Look up China testing port busting torpedoes in an exact area that replicates San Francisco. Like, gosh, that's creepy. And then now JB's picking San Francisco.
Well, yeah, I wonder if they're going to take him on a tour of the city with all the blight that has gone on. Like, look at how beautiful it is now. welcome to San Francisco. No, yeah,
Breaking news.
yeah, I thought that was just like the oddest of places, but at the same time, there is a lot of questions around it now that Governor Newsom was there. All of
Xi
this is
Jinping
coming around.
will get his wallet stolen.
Yeah, exactly. All this is coming around at the exact same time or today when Putin actually signed the papers to dissolve, which we covered. We covered the upper house and lower house a few days ago. I think we talked about them dissolving the nuclear treaty between the U.S. and Russia, and they actually signed it. We'll talk about an overflow, but it's just interesting that on one hand that one's fallen apart, and now they're trying to say they're going to put one in with China, but I don't see Xi saying anything along the lines of, yeah, we'll quit making nukes so we can be friendly with you. He may say we'll come up with some version of control. The control means we'll have as many as you have, or 20% more, something like that. And I just can't see that they're going to stop making, because they're making them very fast.
I was trying. Nobody's made a AI photo of the Beast limo on blocks. You could see like the Beast limo up on cinder blocks. They took the stereo and all the bulletproof windows. All right, and yeah, the China urges a ceasefire along the Myanmar border. So they're calling for them to stop firing. They have called for a halt to fighting flaring along its border with Myanmar, where a rebel group says it has seized several towns, including a trade hub. It says, quote, China is closely following the conflict in northern Myanmar and says, we urge all parties to immediately cease fire, stick to dialogue and consultation, resolve their differences with peaceful means, and avoid escalation. A coalition of ethnic armed groups known as the Three Brotherhood Alliance said in a statement that it had taken control of 4 towns, including the trade hub of Chinshuisha in Shan State, in a week-long military operation. It also seized 6 armored vehicles, it said. Major Gen Zamin Tun, a spokesman for the Myanmar junta, have said in a televised address that the government had lost control of some areas in the north, including Chinshuisha, and of course, which borders the southwestern Chinese province of Yunnan. The latest fighting underscores the challenges that Myanmar's ruling junta faces to controlling the country nearly 3 years after a coup. In September, the acting leader of Myanmar's government in exile, Dua Lashisala, said resistance forces were in control of about 60% of the country's territory and poised to threaten the junta in key strongholds. It's crazy over there. It says violence has intensified in Myanmar as the military led by Min Aung Hlaing, facing a weak economy and growing signs of dissent within his regime, struggles to keep up with a multi-front conflict from several armed ethnic groups. So they've got some very, very crazy stuff going on over there. It's been bad for a long time. So who knows what's going to pop up out of that. And we have the U.S. imposes sweeping new sanctions targeting Russia over the conflict in Ukraine. Real quick, I do want to remind you guys, if you don't already, make sure to go over and check out marfugglenews.com/EMP. This is a device that can protect your cars, trucks, and motorcycles against all EMP strikes and against a Carrington-level event from the sun. If you want to save $50 off per device, you can go to marfugglenews.com/EMP and make sure to use the code MARF. It will ground the signal before it can EMPs can kill your device, or a Carrington-level event can, of course, strike down your vehicles. So this will keep pretty much anything that you want to keep running. Go to marfugglenews.com/EMP. You can also get one for your home that will ground and protect everything within 250 linear feet of where it is plugged in. Again, that's where it is wired in. So go to marfugglenews.com/EMP, help our channel, and get a huge discount per device. All right, and then U.S. imposes the sweeping new sanctions targeting Russia over the conflict in Ukraine. So more sanctions. We've got Green Shirt here. He's evolved. It used to be just a green shirt. Now it's a green dress up. It says that the United States on Thursday imposed sweeping new measures against Moscow over the war in Ukraine. It says targeting Russia's future energy capabilities, sanctions evasion, and suicide drone that has been a menace to Ukrainian troops and equipment, among others, in sanctions on hundreds of people and entities, including their rich elite. It says the latest measures targeted a major entity involved in the development, operation, and ownership of a massive project in Siberia known as Arctic 2 LNG. And it says that the State Department said in a statement that the project expected to ship chilled natural gas, known as liquefied natural gas, to global markets. So now they're targeting their big gas operation in Siberia. Washington also targeted the Kubla, the Lancet suicide drones being used by the Russian military in Ukraine, designating a network it accused of procuring items in support of the production, as well as the creator and designer of the drones. The U.S. Department of Commerce on Thursday added 13 entities in Russia and Uzbekistan to export control list for the acting contrary. It says the U.S. also cracked down on sanctions evasions in the United Arab Emirates, Turkey, and China, as the Treasury Department said companies based in the countries continue to send high-priority dual-use goods to Russia, including components Moscow relies on for its weapons systems. So all going alongside all of this that's happening right now. 7 Russia-based banks and dozens of industrial firms were also hit with sanctions by the Treasury Department, including Gazprom Neft Catalytic Systems LLC, which Treasury said manufactures chemical agents for advanced oil refining in Russia. So depending on how this goes, we actually have stories covered in fact, it's next. Essentially, this may be to add on to the fact that they're not doing too well in Kiev. It says not reached stalemate. Kremlin denies Ukraine's deadlock claims. So one of the claims was that Ukraine said that they are in a stalemate, essentially that both sides are gridlocked and it's not going well, and both sides are just pounding heads, right? Well, Russia is basically saying, no, it's not a stalemate. And it said Russia today denied a claim from Kiev's most senior military official that the nearly 2-year conflict in UKR has reached a deadlock. Says, quote, no, it's not reached a stalemate, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said. Russia is steadily carrying out the special military operation. All the goals were set should be fulfilled, he added, using the Kremlin's name for the full-scale military intervention. Peskov was responding to the interview with British media where Ukraine's General Valery Zhushny said that the two sides had just reached an impasse along the sprawling front lines. Just like in the First World War, we have reached in the level of technology that puts us into a stalemate. A stalemate being like, oh, there's not going to be a winner. Well, then you have on their side essentially saying, deluded. Zelensky blasted his closest aide, claims UKR is not winning war with Russia. So in response to that, Zelensky's closest aide is saying, no, we are not doing well. Now, remember, the media has told us that UKR and the money that we're shoveling by the truckload into this country, and I would say more than truckloads, probably container ship, carrier ship loads of money into, that it's doing well. I mean, if we're going to be spending our tax dollars on a war, we would hope that it's winning, right? Well, we've been told that they are, and that their will and their sheer, steadfastness has been winning this thing. Meanwhile, Russia, which of course has been minimized, and they say, oh, their military sucks. They've got old stuff. They're falling apart. They're run by a nomadic despot of a sickly, cancer-ridden leader. It's in the bag. They're going to win. But every sign points to that UKR is losing hundreds of thousands of people, if not at least in the tens and tens and tens of thousands, and that Russia is not doing as bad as they said. It says Ukraine is not winning its war against Russia, according to a close advisor of President Vladimir Zelensky. Despite the difficult situation on the ground, Zelensky's belief in an outright UKR victory is said to be unmovable, according to a new report by Time. A close aide said he deludes himself. We're out of options. We're not winning, but trying to tell him that, as if that he's the real leader of anything. If you know back to 2014 and stuff, he's just the face. Just like most leaders are just the face of a country. I guess, in some cases they might actually make decisions, but if you look at this situation, it's more like he was the face. They were like, oh, he plays that part really well, literally in his show right before this. Um, so I don't believe anything that they're saying, even if it goes with what I agree, even if it goes like with what my bias is. I don't believe it. I don't believe anything. I believe that there's a spin to it and that something is going wrong either way. But I have always had the thought that Russia is not a weak military. You don't underestimate your enemy, and you don't sit there and say that they're absolutely garbage when they're not. Dex, opinions on that?
Yeah, I agree with you. Don't underestimate them. Don't believe any of the stuff coming from either sides too, because they're both going to paint the picture they want. But it's clear that there. Look, UKR will not be successful at all if we're not footing the bill. They will not be successful at all if the rest of the world doesn't give them everything that they want. And unfortunately, it seems like we have to give them more because so much of it appears to be getting skimmed off the top that they're not able to even apply what we give them. So without the support, they're not going to win. So that support has dwindled. We've seen countries back out. We've seen the Italian prime minister say as much that they have fatigue, and she was talking to a prank call, but still, she said it was her words. We've got even the sentiment even in our own Congress here is significantly negative towards sending them money. So it doesn't look good for them right now, and it doesn't seem that Russia is really having any great losses. If anything, they continue to hold their lines that they captured, and it seems that their original goal wasn't to take the whole. At least their stated original goal wasn't to take the whole country; it was to take certain areas, and they did that. So,
Dex, I'm going to change my battery right quick. But first of all, yes, we actually have this. This was added late, so Dex, it is in Pocket. So if you wanted to grab that, the RCMP investigating attempted train derailment in BC. Mounties are investigating what they described as an attempt to derail a train in British Columbia's Fraser Canyon. Now, this is the crazy part. Someone placed a vice clamp on a section of train track near the historic Alexandra Bridge, so they were trying to derail it. This was a purposeful thing. It says it is very concerning when someone goes to this extreme to cause a catastrophic event that puts the train staff and local community at risk of harm. Now, mind you, they saw this, they caught it before it ended up doing damage, but that's really, really alarming. And if you think about how many places they could do this, this is not a very fancy thing. This could happen anywhere. Anywhere a train track is and they sell a vice clamp, you could see something like this happen. Now, I don't know what would actually happen. Maybe it would hit it and the vice clamp would come loose and just keep dragging along the way. Or if it actually held, if you get a strong enough vice clamp, I would think that it would be able to do that. Did you hear about this, Dex?
No, I didn't. But they do sell. They do have them on websites, and for practical purposes, called a derailer. And it is a device that you put on the end of a rail that intentionally, and they usually do it at the end of a rail, like where the train should stop. So, in other words, if it keeps going, it doesn't just fall off; it literally derails itself. It's an intentional tool, and they make that. It's out there. It can be. I don't know if it can be purchased by the public, but it seemed like at one point it could.
Well, that's very alarming. And thank you. I used to be in the library from Canada. Did you hear about the attempted derailing of a train in BC today? Used a device clamped to the rails to derail, luckily spotted first. Craig Alicious says the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month is when the guns of World War I fell silent. Craig Alicious. I feel like there's a movie that talks about the minute where everything stopped. Jake Albergati, isn't that? It wasn't 1917, was it? Something that mentions that. Jake Albergati, you guys are the best. Keep up the good work. Tuning in from South Carolina. Well, nice to see you, Jake, and thank you for making it today. We actually didn't do a roll call today, so if you want to do one, we're closing in on the end, so we'll do that here in a minute. Let's see here. And U.S. plans $425 million Ukraine weapons aid announcement. What next? Which, by the way, didn't we just do? I guess this is million, right? They just also added in this, 60 billion to the 100 billion they asked for because of the whole thing that was going on in Is. So, Dex, I guess what's the difference between that and this extra ATACMS, the long range missiles?
Well, I think the question is, can they? Is this aid package specific and one that would require the Congress to vote on, or like the $100 billion package is a big budget that they were going to send through for the whole year, and ask, obviously need approval. The question I have is how much of this may be coming from existing budgeting in the military, and how much of it may be military equipment that they can send without actually having to get clearance. They found the missing money, last time. Is there more of that hasn't been used that they're going to try to do? Because it seems like there is a lot of tension in Congress right now, at least by those that are in the control of it, to not approve of any more money going over, or if they do, it's going to have to, be very tightly controlled, and probably have a whole lot of other stuff that they want from it. I think they were recently asking to defund or take back some of the funds that were going to some of the other crazy things that they considered were crazy, and use that money for this if they were going to. So I don't know. We'll see. But again, it seems like every week we got to find a way to send money to UKR, and I've yet to see anything happen here recently.
B. Taylor says basically throwing away money. This just has to stop. We just read a piece the other day how they're talking about it behind the scenes. That recorded call, the prank call, where the lady was saying basically everybody's looking for an out. Nobody is in support anymore. There's falling support for the conflict, and they need an out. They need a one-way street out of this conflict. So yeah, as far as the money goes, look at how much we're in debt because of CV. They printed more money in a couple months than we've ever printed in all of U.S. history. In fact, majority of all money ever printed in history was printed in the last couple of years. That's insanity. That's more than insane. That's ludicrous. That's absolutely unacceptable. And where it's printed, it doesn't have a backing. It's not like it's not like it's on the gold standard or anything. It's just printing money out of thin air and saying, we'll pay you back later. All right. Thank you guys. Thank you. A lot of schools here. Somebody said South Carolina in the house. Hey, thank you guys. Senate Ryan is pitching for the left. Wide awake and angry. Nice to see you. Heart Salvia. Hey, if I can ask, there is somebody I know who works at a retail shop, and he is one of the nicest guys I've ever met. It's one of those things where you walk into a store and you meet somebody and they've worked there for 20, 30 years, and they're just the nicest people, where every time you go to that store, you talk to them. They were gone for a few months, and every time I went in, I'd try to say hi, and they were gone. And I just saw them earlier today, and apparently, I'll just say the guy name is Arlen, and he's got, I guess he had kidney disease, and he had high blood pressure, He's only 48 years old, but he had kidney disease and now needs a kidney. He needs to translate. Now he does dialysis 3 times a week, and they say that he might live 5 to 6 years with dialysis if he doesn't get a new kidney. So he's on some sort of list. But my guess, and if you're not rich and have the best insurance in the world, then I swear your luck is not good for transplants. I also have a friend, she's actually in chat, who got a double lung transplant. She actually was very successful and she was very lucky. And I actually told him about her and I said, my friend got a double lung transplant, which is insane. If you think about that, having two full lungs in the majority of your chest that's somebody else's is insane, and have it successful and work. And she had some hiccups. But I would ask if you guys pray for Arlen for him to get the kidney he needs. And he is just one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. And apparently now he doesn't get to really work out with everybody else. He's in kind of the back rooms and things. But pray that he gets that. Dialysis not fun. I'm sure there's a lot of you on dialysis. There's anybody who's had the same issues probably is doing the same thing, or anybody that has bad diabetes has dealt with it. So again, I'm really, really praying for him to get better. And he's got lots of kids. I know he's got at least 5 or 6 kids. So I'm really hoping that he will get better and that he will get that kidney. It's one of those people that you really normally, might not ever talk to somebody, but once you do, it's just like they leave a mark on you and you end up talking to every time you go somewhere. So I hope he is going to be healed, and I hope that he lives a long time. And he's still working 50, 60 hours weeks, which is absolutely how it is now. And he supports his family. So if you guys can, pray for him. That would be much appreciated. All right. And let's see here. Gabby B, thanks. Nice to see you. Lord Andrew, Carolyn Moore Smith, and Bobby Birch, nice to see you. Tree Hookers, Carolyn Moore Smith. Fatty, nice to see you. Ready Now. My brother was the dialysis payment. He was a trooper through all of it. Miss him fiercely. Well, hopefully we won't have to miss Arlen. Adam, he can have one of mine. I don't know how that. I don't know if I don't know what it does. You can give one of your kidneys and still be okay, right? That's the one you can give away one. Anyways, Dex, let's go over the web only. We got a lot of crazy stuff down here.
Yeah, we certainly do. Head over to marfooglenews.com, click on the thumbnail for the show, or open up that show notes link down below in the description. It'll take you right here to this web page with everything we just covered, including all the updates that came in from the Foogle fam, and we've put in the page. So if you're looking for any of those links, they're there, like what happened to the nuclear plant in South Carolina and Oconee. That's all there. So get to the yellow bar. It's overflow. It's the rest of the story. President Xi sent Kim Jong-un a love letter basically saying we'll make bigger contributions. That's about the extent of the details, but it once again reiterates that alliance that is built between Russia and China and North Korea. So if you want to learn a little bit more about that, it's there. We do have all the additional coverage of what's going on in the Middle East. So everything from the protests that are happening and why they're happening or where they're happening, to updates on just the actual details that may be going on, like the number counts and where they're making the incursions and whatnot. So all of that is there. Elon apparently was on, I think it was on Rogan, and he made some interesting comments. There's a handful of things out there, but one of them was about George, and I'm talking about the SOAR guy, SOAR and the OS. So he said, in my opinion, he fundamentally does not like humanity, and went on to compare him to a supervillain. So if you want to know more about that exact interview and what he talked about, you can go see it. It's on the website. There's some other stuff with Elon about SpaceX actually becoming cash flow positive. That basically means they're no longer losing money. They're making as much as they're spending. So they're not making profit yet, but that's a big sign for SpaceX as it's growing. As we mentioned earlier, Putin did actually sign the paperwork to get rid of the test ban treaty, the nuclear test ban treaty. We talked about that going into it. The upper house and lower house had all approved it last week. And it was just sitting on his desk waiting to happen. We knew it was going to happen. And today was the day, or maybe it was yesterday, technically. Also interesting, like we had a Minuteman blow up over the water because they called it anomaly. We have China announcing they're willing to do nuclear talks at the same time we've got Putin, disbanding the test ban treaty. So expect to see a lot of things happening on the nuclear front now. Definitely worth paying attention to. Do have some additional updates on what's going on in UKR. Of course, all the political coverage. T-Man's children on the stand. Melania actually seen with him in public for the first time in 7 months. All of that coverage, if you're looking for it, including what's going on with some of the other people in Congress that were sort of under the microscope. Some of them, they were trying to boot them out. That didn't happen. And Bankman-Fried trial went into deliberations, and he's actually now, I guess they found him guilty. It was kind of an obvious one, but didn't take them long. So that deal's done. That's all there. And so much more. So if you're looking for it, even an update from the Chat GPT chief, the CEO, Sam Altman, talking about superhuman skills that AI can develop. If you want to learn about that and so much more, it's on our website. It's the rest of the story. It's on marfooglenews.com. Click on the thumbnail for today's show, scroll down till you find this section, or hit that show notes link down below in the description. It'll take you right here.
Sorry, I was a little distracted by one of the supers by Asperger's Music Moist Sounds. But says, awesome channel, and can you sing about chickens again? I will try to add that in there. But I did want to point out this one story. Amazon made $1 billion. Did you talk about this? Did you mention that one? $1 billion, secret price raising algorithm. This is the kind of crap.
I didn't. Go ahead.
This is the kind of crap they do. I mean, one thing is crazy. Didn't I talk to you about this like a year ago or something about how I said we were ordering baby formula through Amazon or it was during the shortage when they did the baby formula shortage or whatever, which I think that was complete BS in itself. We saw videos of crazy amounts of it being thrown away and all this, and we don't even use the kind that had the recall. In fact, if you weren't using the brand or the kind that had anything in that recall, then why was there a shortage on the other brands, the ones that didn't use it, the organic stuff? But I noticed that it just kept going up by a couple cents. And I was like, what the heck? So I don't know if that has anything to do with this, but I noticed that there were regular things we ordered that just kept going up by a couple cents. And I'm like, why is it like 14 cents more now? And then the next time ordered, it was like 22 cents up. And I'm like, I'm like, literally, this is inflation you wouldn't notice. If you ordered the same item and it just kind of went up by a little bit, if that all adds up. So again, these companies are just disgusting, especially somebody like, Bezos with this fake hand security guard. I told you guys I saw him without one, and people didn't believe it. I got a video of him, and I asked him, I said, are you Bezos? And he said no. And I think it's because he didn't have his security, and he was wearing normal clothes. He was 2 blocks away from the Amazon headquarters, and I think he thought, I'll just run to Walgreens, and it, nobody's out. And I got video of it, and I think he knew I had my cell phone out, but he did not have security, and I was surprised by that. People were surprised that when he was out that he only had one bodyguard. And I think he was in like New York. So I could see him thinking like, oh, I'm in Seattle. Everybody knows me or whatever. I'll be fine. But I was just thinking, man, that was when he was at number 2 spot or number 1 spot when him and Elon were going back and forth. Think about having that much money and just walking around without a bodyguard. That's scary. Dex, go ahead.
So the FTC is actually saying that Amazon had a algorithm an internal code name for the project called Project Nessie. And what they would do is they would look at products and try to determine if they thought they could make the other merchants. Because, like, one of the cool things about Amazon is you get multiple merchants selling the same thing. So then you get sort of a bidding war. They all like lower their price by a penny. And that's why you can usually find, who's the cheapest, kind of like eBay, right? Everybody starts going down on price until somebody gets to the bottom. But what they were doing is they were finding out which products had sellers on them that would follow the price up. So if Amazon would raise the price a couple pennies, then the other ones would also raise. And then their algorithm called Project Nessie would go around looking for that type of activity and then use it to start gaining and raising prices everywhere. That's according to the FTC, not us.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't want to be caught saying something that's not true about Amazon as like an independent or something. They have like a team of lawyers for their team of lawyers, a freaking desk assistant. Like those guys are scary. All right. Well, thank you for your service tonight, Dex. Appreciate you.
Absolutely. Much love. Great job, brother.
Thank you to all of our wonderful mods. Thank you to Trinity. Thank you to Ilea. Thank you to everybody that made it to tonight's show. Thank you for the supporters. Thank you, Asperger's Music Moist Sounds. Thank you. People get mad if I don't say their name, so I guess I'll do that one. Jake Albergati, thank you. Craig Alicious, I used to be in the library. That's awesome screen name. Thank you so much for your support tonight. Big shout out. Thank you, Danish Girl. Hope you're out there somewhere doing okay. Antonio Naftali, Samuel Turner. Of course, Tennessee Mountain Girl. Thank you for stopping by this week. I appreciate you. And over on D Live, thank you. Special thank you to everybody over on D Live here. Let's see here. Let's see. Thank you, Kimria. Thank you, Snook. And going to be making a song. It looks like we are going to be making a song for Jake Albergati. Thank you so much. It is now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout out. It's a shoutro. Big thank you to Kiki Gray, Johnson, and Amanda, top supporters over on D-Live. Albergati, everybody, yo, shot. I will take Albergati, everybody, boom, boom, DJ, I'm gonna take Albergati, up, dab, 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 hey, bum, 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 bum. Johnson, your profile pic is one of the creepiest I've ever seen. That is just creepy. Kiki Gray, yours is the cutest. Same with you, Amanda. Thank you. I cut the potion. Everybody in the same motion. Everybody really wanna know it. I swimming deep in the ocean. Whoa, whoa, and with the detail of Joe that you know it. And anti-decency. And the truth I risk on the slinger and the catch deep by ears. Everybody knows aloha. Everybody knows hello. Oh yeah. Hey, I with the Derrick Red. Maybe in that big old jail. Hey, y'all have a great night from the big O'Brien night. Hey, with a Carolyn Rice and a B-Bar Road, and I said, then this and Lord Lady Harmon, yeah, Caitlin and Annabelle. I think there is signing one by zip, zip, oh, up, hip, oh, up, hip, up, hey, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, hey, oh, hey, oh. You didn't bring the mood down, you're fine. I got the Duchess. I said everybody really wanna much us. I said the munchies. I said the money. Chicken. I been ripping. I see the ripping to a chicken. I'm up. I need me doom up. I dip it doom up. All right, let's make a new one.